This is Eric Rutan of Cannibal Corpse. You are listening to the Scars and Guitars podcast with Andrew McKay Smith.
Thanks for joining me for this conversation with Francesco Artusato from Light the Torch. He's the guitarist, and the group have a brand new album out now. If I was more organised, because I'm doing this introduction well after I've actually conducted the conversation, I'd be able to tell you what the name of the album is. But I can do that now because I'm looking in my iPhone in the emails, and here it is. You Will Be the Death of Me. It's out right now. A killer album featuring Francesco's signature guitar work. So here he is, Francesco from Light the Torch. So this new album, okay, I've had a listen to it. I like it, but I'm a musician and I'm a fan of your guitar playing, it must be said. I do listen to albums with the musician's performance in mind, I must confess, far above and beyond what I'm listening to with regard to the vocals. Nothing against Howard at all. I think he's a phenomenal vocalist, but I think your performance on this one here might be your finest guitar performance to date. And
Thank you.
I was reading another interview that was only recently conducted, actually, so it was in the last month or so that it was posted. But I understand you wrote this just on the back of the conversation about your health. You wrote this in stifling heat, without air conditioning, and you were battling yourself back into form, and we said through chronic pain. And you mentioned that they were the best songs, and when you're at probably your lowest ebb in those moments, that your greatest songs. So I've got to ask, does through great suffering, does great music become?
In a way, I kind of like, I see how this record kind of came from those kind of feelings. And obviously AC is working now, but no, like, literally that was crazy. I like in between two tours came home and it was like a brutal heat of LA in August. And then the AC broke, and then the part of the building manager, they was like, we can't send anybody. It's like everybody is busy with fixing ACs around town. So it's like, we'll have to wait. And then at that time, it was like, seriously, I felt like I was borderline hallucinating between like the medication I was taking and just like my back hurting like so much. So you're just like trying to record, but I have to take breaks like from my back, just even while I'm trying to, press space bar. And like, it was kind of crazy. But honestly, even though, that was like a really weird time for me, even more, I found that music was the one solution. I was literally like, if I didn't have a way to do something creatively and write music, I would have been so miserable. But actually I wasn't miserable, because of the excitement of just working on the songs and like I said, it's kind of weird that during that month I wrote 3 or 4 songs that were like some of the best songs on the record. And it really, I talked about it with my therapist, actually, how it's like, is the struggling and suffering going to be necessary to write the next record? Because like that happened naturally for this record, but when I'm going to have to, I don't want to be back at just struggling and feeling unhealthy, but in a way it's like, it's just, it really became like my escape to feel decent, just work with music.
Yeah, it's an interesting point you raised there, because I'll never forget when the great B.B. King said that no matter how much money he's got, at the time he was being interviewed and he made this comment, no matter how comfortable his surrounds, whenever he picks up the guitar and he starts playing the blues, he's transported back to that time when he had bugger all when he was growing up. So it's almost like it's like an imprint where you can now access that no matter how salubrious and luxurious your current surroundings are.
Yeah, I actually never heard of that, but that's a great of thinking and great way to approach music. I love that. I'll definitely keep that in mind.
Did you try any techniques on the guitar throughout this album that you've not used before?
To use what?
Any techniques?
Oh, techniques. I don't know if it's like in terms of actual guitar techniques. There's things there. I mean, I guess just things that I developed over the years that are natural for me. Kind of like, I noticed how much like I have like riffs with the, pull offs with open strings in between that kind of like comes natural to me. And it's one of the things that like back in the days I would try to practice and I was really finding kind of challenging. And I guess like I practiced certain things more, and now it's just happened naturally in the way I write some riffs. And I don't know. It's like this time I think like I was like thinking about like guitar just like very like sonically what it could do as a color, as a texture. And so also experimenting with different type of tones even more than before, like different pickups, different, guitars for different parts. And but I don't know. It's like, in a way, it feels like in a guitar way, I kind of like, it could seem like I took it easy in a way, because there's not like a lot of solos. There's not a lot of like, it's not like overall shredding, but I think like I was trying to just be tasteful. Whatever I was doing, like try to be tasteful and fit with the music. Yeah. It's like over the years, like for somebody, I used to like, want to have solos and everything, do instrumental music and do all that. And now I'm kind of like, I put solos when, if Howard is not writing a vocal part during the bridge, then I put solo. I don't try to write a section. Oh, that's going to be the solo. And I don't know. It just like, I guess it's like the way I feel about a song, like the songwriting and just like how a song flows to me. And there's like, I don't know. I'm having a hard time sometimes, like nowadays, listening to music where the solo, for example, feels like really was like, it feels like the guitar player is like, hey guys, can I put the solo there? Let's add a second.
I agree.
Yep. So to me, kind of like, I gotta be honest, I have like solos from the past that I feel like, wow, I really wish I had not put that solo there. It kind of like breaks the flow of that part of the song. And, but there are other solos that I'm really happy with. I'm really proud of. I love the solo that I did in Sign Your Name, for example, in the cover. I like that one. And it's like, to me, it's, it's got the right ingredients of what I like to listen now.
Yeah, that's a good point. I was going to ask you that question, actually. You're a very capable guitarist in a capable band. You could pretty much cover anything you want. But I remember, I'm 43, so I remember that song when it first came out back in the late 80s. Terence Trent D'Arby and Sign Your Name Across My Heart. So why did you guys pick that one to cover?
Yeah, I mean, I love that cover. I love the cover. I love the song. It's such a good song. And obviously Howard's is like big fan, 80s pop also. And he loves the song. And we were not really planning to put a cover in this album. And then we were kind of like in between. We were kind of done with the pre-production, first week of pre-production. And just randomly listening. I had like an 80s playlist playing on Spotify. And after we were done at the studio, and I heard the song, and right away I had an idea. I was like, I think this would sound great, like rearranged with our sound. And then especially hearing Howard's voice over that chorus, I thought, like, if we make this a big chorus, like big, powerful, huge voice, I think it would sound awesome. And then when I told Howard, he was like kind of surprised by the idea, because like obviously it's like, even if you think about the lyrics and everything's kind of like, not really what we would normally do, but everything's like kind of like start clicking when I started working on the arrangement, and then show it to the guys. And yeah, and then when Howard recorded it in the studio, it was like, we were all like big smiles, like, this is awesome.
You might have tapped into something there, because I think it works very well. And it was a left turn that it's a left turn that, from a listener's perspective, I don't think many people would expect. And dare I say it, a lot of your fan base wouldn't even have a clue who Terence Trent D'Arby is, probably. So they might even think it's an original tune, unless they're reading the bio or what have you. But it does hint at something broader, which is that it almost opens up a new lane for you guys. More melodic music in that vein, especially with Howard's. Howard's got a very soulful voice, as you know. There's not really any other person singing like he does in hard rock and heavy metal, particularly heavy metal like what you guys are doing. So have you talked about or even thought about doing more music in that vein, but originals?
Well, I think in a way we do have songs in that vein on this record. I think like, or even if it's not like maybe an entire song, but there are sections that kind of are in that vein with like, and yeah, that's definitely like, to me personally, it's the kind of territory that I want to explore more and more. You know, just like I'm just more and more I'm attracted by like well-written songs. So I kind of find like it almost doesn't matter what style it is. If I hear a song that is like, I feel like that's mastery in the writing, the arrangements, I find it very interesting. That to me is like, it's become the main challenge with writing, like work on those elements, you know? And so I like to have music also that leaves a lot of, you know, where there's a lot of space, you know, when there's like, things are not too busy all the time, or like, and so I think like that cover is kind of like the perfect sound for what we kind of like, and that could possibly be like more of an evolution, what we're gonna do moving forward. But we'll see. Yeah, definitely. It's I think personally, I think it really fits because it sounds like a song written together with the other ones in a way.
It does. Yeah, I agree totally. Yeah, I know. I of course I read the bio, but when I listened to the song, of course, for the first minute or two, it sounds like one of your songs. It doesn't sound like the cover at all. And that's what I like about it, actually, is that you haven't actually tried to recreate the tune as Terence did. Because in my opinion, that's impossible. It's already been done once. But I like to use this word, reimagine the tune. And there's a lot of bands these days that are coming out with whole albums of covers, you might have seen, where they're doing something similar. And fans love it. And this bloody day and age, I'm not a fan of it, but it is what it is. Spotify. I mean, you might find that this is the breakout song on the album, just the way people are listening to things. And you've got to have your marketing hat on as well, even if you're in an extreme metal band or a heavy metal band. Otherwise, you lose relevance from a commercial perspective. And you always want to be in a position, I think, when you are as gifted a musician as what you are and what the rest of the band are, to actually have an audience for your music as well. So, you know, it's a smart move. It's a great song, and I think it hints at some of the broader opportunities that are that lie ahead for you guys. So, but look, I'll change tact. I want to talk about the drumming situation in the band, because with every great band, there is an Achilles heel. You know, Led Zeppelin had their drug use, and for you guys, it seems to be the drumming stool. Who's on the drumming stool? But I've never felt with you guys that it affects the quality of the music. You selected drummers that at the time that fit what you're trying to do very well. But is there a possibility that Alex from Whitechapel will join the band full time, or is it just a session that you brought him in for?
Well, as of right now, I mean, as you might know, he's Whitechapel's guy, so he's like that's his band. So I mean, honestly, like I love his playing, and then to me, already having him record was like a big thing. That's really the drummer or the style that I really wanted. And that's, to me, it's like, that's the other thing. It's like, I kind of like, for now, because we haven't found the perfect guy who is available yet. And until then, I kind of like the idea of I'm hiring the perfect guy for the record, you know, and then the record will be there forever, right? Once you record it, that's the record. And then for touring, you obviously need somebody who's going to be able to perform somewhat like on the record, right? So in this case, we kind of shot ourselves in the foot because like playing like Alex, it's not many people can.
Yeah.
But even
So
and I love like the reason why I really wanted to have Alex on the record is because you can tell, even though it's like probably he's more known for like the more extreme type of playing metal and like really fast stuff. You can tell the control of dynamics, the musicality, the phrasing that he has is like, it's perfect for this kind of music. And then in a way, it's like the approach, you know, when you think about artists like, I don't know, Sting, Elton John, Michael Jackson, they had different drummers pretty much on every record, you know, and sometimes they have a drummer that plays on the record. They have a drummer that plays live. So in a way, I'm kind of seeing this band as like, so far, we kind of taking that approach, you know, it's like obviously like, it'll be great to find a great guy who's not trying to screw us over as a band, who's also like amazing recording musicalities, understands the writing, and then he's just great at playing live. You know, if we had that, absolutely. But yeah, for now it's kind of like the drummer situation is always kind of a thing. But I'm not even too stressed out about it because like there are a lot of session drummers who are amazing, you know, and then to me it's kind of important at this point. I think us as a band, the three of us, we kind of have an idea of what we want the record to be. And we kind of have like a goal, like when we started a record. And I don't really want to have like, at the moment, a drummer who's going to come and try to bring a style that is not fitting or that's just going to be, it might not really work with the,
Or is an asshole on tour either. That's the other thing. That's the big thing, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think like in a way, when you are hiring somebody to do a record, he literally is coming there, and he's not expected to just have like big opinions about, hey guys, why don't we change this? You know, because it's not really his band. It's kind of like, hey, come here to do what you're supposed to, right? And so I don't know. So far, I'm kind of like, I don't mind not having a drummer. You know what I'm saying? Like, but like I said, I absolutely love Alex. Working with Alex in the studio. I mean, him and I text pretty much every day. And he's like, is a good friend, and he knows if he was available, I'd be the first guy I would call. You know, I just respect that he's got commitments, and he's been in Whitechapel for a while, and that's what he's doing. That's what he's going to be doing. But yeah, if there were two Alexes, like if there's like clone Alex, I would hire that. And then.
Yeah. Well, you've had to fight some tough battles throughout your career. No doubt about that, with lawsuits and your ex-bandmates and all of that sort of stuff. And I can completely understand the reluctance to try to wedge somebody into the band who might be a musical fit but wouldn't be a fit on the personality side, or vice versa, because it's just too hard. And God, in my 43.
So before that, you know, I was in Old Shell Parish, and the stuff, the way it happened with Old Shell Parish with the drummer, the lawsuit and all that stuff. Then Devil You Know, and then changing the name and all that stuff. Seriously, who's gonna think like I'm gonna find a drummer like, yeah, join the band? It's like,
yes,
like almost throwing our careers multiple times, like dealing with the wrong personality and the wrong person. Just like, you know, I think at this point we're like, so, you know, it's like we've done this for so long that we kind of understand, like, let's just be, you know, take our time. Whenever we're going to find the guy, that'll be the guy. Great.
Do you think, I've got to ask then, because I've had these experiences too, people take advantage of you when you're a nice guy, when you're not an asshole, when you are somebody that invests trust in people. Like, you know, trust is not earned, it's flipped. Trust is there to be lost. Because I've now changed. I've now, like, trust is there to be earned. I've been screwed over a couple of times by people, financially and personally. Do you think that because yourself and Howard are so easy to get along with and you're nice guys, do you think people saw that as a weakness? You know what I mean when I say that, because I feel that same way about myself.
I don't think that happens when people meet us and we are in the work environment. Because we like they understand we're nice guys, but when it's a matter of work, there's no being like, you messed up. You really did something. It's like it's not gonna be like, and that's why honestly also we fired a bunch of guys because like even I'm talking about even crew, people like like tour managers and merch people, like all that stuff. Like we're not really like, I think like to me at least, this is how I feel. Like I've been doing this for such a long time that the things that I would have accepted when I was like in my 20s, like promoters being rude or certain things, I would have been okay back then, kind of like thinking, well, I guess this is the music game. Now I don't take that stuff anymore. And then Howard's the same, like, and Ryan's the same. So it's kind of like it's either our way or see you later.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one there, and that does come with age because you realise that some people they're just self-involved pricks, and making excuses for people seems to just empower them. And I talk to my wife about this sort of stuff quite a bit, just with the run of stuff that we've just been through. It's like you've almost got to, when you first meet people or a business engagement or what have you, you've almost got to set the expectations from the minute you first meet them, if there's a transaction that's going to occur. So there's an understanding about what these things look like. And I hate to say it, you've got to get contracts for everything. Handshakes and verbal agreements aren't worth a goddamned. They're just not worth a goddamned. And I can't stand that we live in a world like that, but we do. And I guess that sort of hints at another point back on the music though. But look, Hiss of Atrocities are one of those bands that get quite a hit on YouTube still. So do you get hit up by fans of the band asking if potentially that band will come back to life at some point?
No, not really actually. I know the other guitar player sometimes does. Roy gets hit by some people like, hey, you guys should do something. But I mean, it's been such a long time, and it really does feel like a different life. And yeah, I mean, that was like back then when it was like fun to write music without really thinking like, I remember it's like a lot of, I mean, obviously when you're like doing, a lot of screaming and stuff like that, you kind of like write things differently. But back then it was fun to just write songs that could be like 10-minute long song, and it's just all kinds of parts, and it's like every song feels like a journey, just like, and kind of like go with whatever, like, and I also, what's crazy that back then we were literally, everything we were writing, we were like jamming. So we would write songs together we lived together. So those are our living room, and our living room was like the practice space, and we'd like spend an entire day just like jamming. And then after days and days of like working on songs, so it's kind of crazy, like to write songs like that, like just actual like practicing. And nowadays it's kind of like, as like everybody knows, like most people write their songs on their own or something like that, and then they go practice, or most of the times like you don't even get to play the songs as a band before you record them.
Yeah,
you get to play the songs for the first time after you recorded the songs.
I interviewed a band the other day, and the members have never met each other. They've only communicated over text, because that's the world we live in these days. They go, oh, well, you've appeared on this album, you have this vocal style, and you were in this band, and you had this album, and you have this guitar tone and this guitar style. That's perfect. Let's just send each other a message and exchange files from the cloud, and away we go. And somebody just takes on the role of master producer, if you like, or the George Martin role, if you like, as I like to call it. But that's the world we live in these days, isn't it? It's hyper-connected no matter where you are in the world these days. I mean, maybe if the technology was 5 to 10 years earlier than what it is now for, you might have been able to stay in Italy, for example, rather than jetting across to Los Angeles.
True.
How did you find settling into America, having come from Italy?
Well, I mean, it was many years of adjusting. Like at this point, I lived in the States for almost half my life. And, but when I came, I really like came from like a family where everything like it just was all love and feeling protected and feeling like, you know, and all of a sudden like you're on your own in the first I was like in Boston and then still a pretty big city compared to what I was used to. And, but at least at that time I was just going to school, you know, so it's kind of like you go to school. I lived near the school. Just that's easy. That's an easy life. I'm going to study music, which is like what I like to do. That's easy. When I moved to LA after, that was like brutal. Like the first 2-3 years were just, you know, really, really hard. Like figuring out also because like as an international, like from being a student, you know, you get a visa after you graduate, you have a visa for 1 year. And in that 1 year, you got to try to find a work with the, and it needs to be related to your degree. So it's not that I could just, I need money. I'm going to go to work at McDonald's. You can't. It's like, you got to do music. And it's like, okay, become professionally, you know, just, you know, like live in America and have a contract with the music. What? It's like, it's the hardest thing in the world. So that was just like years of just stressing out about like even being able to stay in the country, you know? So it's, but you know, it was all worth it. It's like, this is where all the good stuff happened. So it's, yeah.
So there you have it. Wanted to let Francesco have the last word there on his odyssey from Italy to the United States. Francesco Artusato, of course, is the guitarist in Light the Torch and some of those other bands that I mentioned throughout the conversation. If you like what you just heard, go across to scarsandguitars.com. I'm launching a new website soon, so you can find everything and anything you might like a lot easier, because God knows I've done well over 550 interviews, and there's got to be a handful, if not much, much more, in regard to artists and musicians who you'd want to hear from. My name's Andrew Mackay-Smith, and I'm the host of the Scars and Guitars podcast series. It's goodbye until next time.